All right. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate folks joining us, especially at the different set of hours. I was saying right as we were kind of getting things spun up here a minute ago that I'd like to start having, it's probably going to be, I'm going to say probably one out of every four, maybe meetings around this time period, so we can kind of hit the contingent on the opposite side of the world that I'm on. Um, it's really, I mean, I'm on the East Coast of the U.S. and it's not terribly late. It's 10 o'clock at night, so not too bad. And if it works well for for folks in the Australia Pacific Rim region to do this, then I think it's a great way to get it done. So we'll try to make this a relatively regular event, and yeah, we'll kind of hop in and we'll work through the got the typical slide deck set up, and obviously lots of progress being made. And great to have a bunch of the devs here too. So we'll give everybody kind of a chance to add comments as they see fit, and we'll go from there. All right. Big items up front. So I think everybody knows that the draft of BIP 42 seed gauge system is posted for discussion in Discord. So that's exciting. I know that a lot of people have been looking at that and giving comments. So good to see that. The other thing worth mentioning is that the Code Hawks out of multi-flow pump version 1.1.0 is currently underway. Just saw the contract for that come through just over the last couple days, so they're actively working on that project. So good to see that moving forward. And then just upcoming items right along with the draft of BIP 42. We'll have a vote here relatively soon. All right, down into project. So looking at the project funnel, so couple small changes here for items above the funnel. Did add in Beanstalk L2. Hearing more and more chatter about that from different members of the community. Sounds like something that people are getting more and more interested in, potentially having the devs pursue. So I wanted to add that to our above the funnel grouping to kind of get that on the radar. And then took the unripe stock burn from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. And I know that Pizza Man, I know you've been really kind of in the weeds and thinking a lot about that. And it sounds like we're moving towards something like a plan for action. So excited to have that getting closer and closer to some type of active development. Any questions or comments on these items before we move forward?
I think before any work on the unripe stock burn will happen, we'll put it up for like a vote to see if it would actually pass, because it's kind of it's a kind of a controversial idea. So we'll see what the stockholders actually think about it. I think before putting too much time into developing it.
Makes total sense. And I know that a thought that I've had and I've put in the Discord, and I know that I think, or I shouldn't say I know, I should say no. Other people have been kind of kicking around is this idea of like what protections are there for unripe asset holders, and I think that'll be a really interesting question to answer. I mean, I think it's something that can be answered. Thankfully, there's probably a litany of potential approaches to like protecting that group of folks. But it'll be interesting to see what the approach ends up being. But yeah, I'm excited to see what that vote looks like, and then yeah, how the overall process moves forward. All right. So seed gauge looking real good. So won't necessarily spend a lot of time here because there's been quite a bit of discussion and activity, especially over the last couple days. But a lot of green in that list of tasks. So hats off to Breen, especially. I know that just watching you work with the auditors and answer questions, and I have to say, understanding only a very small amount of what you guys are talking about, but still appreciating all the work that's going into that. So, Breen, anything you want to add here?
Yeah. First off, thank you for the kind words.
Of
Just
course.
doing our best
Hmm.
here. And the other thing is just that, the discussion period's on right now. So, maybe a couple of days before we decide to put it up for BIP. But, the only other thing to consider is that ideally this would be shared with a couple other considerations. I know the whole community have been discussing the stock burn, and given that we've seen a bit of voter apathy, we want to minimize the
Hmm.
amount of times people vote. So ideally, perhaps the stock burn vote occurs in the same time as the C gauge.
Hmm. That's fair. And admittedly, yeah, I've heard kind of similar um, discussion about other items too. So yeah, it voter apathy is going to be unfortunately just an issue to manage, and this does seem like a good way to try to to kind of keep our arms around that, because yeah, it's tough when things are spaced out. So no, that's a good note to make. We got somebody with a mute off. Here goes. We're good. All right. All right. So we'll jump down to wrapstETH migration, and yeah, I've been seeing more and more chatter um, with the audit team around this, and looks like things are moving around along relatively smoothly. Um, again, we're kind of in that period where the devs and I'll say, Breen, I know that you're again doing a lot of the back and forth with the audit team, um, and other than that, we're just kind of watching this process play out. So again, I'll toss to you, Breen. Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, just to give more color on what's happening. So
Hmm.
CodeHawk has this interim period where the participants of the competitive audit, you know, uh, goes through all the issues that's been reported through the CodeHawk audit. So in conjunction with the judging, they themselves actually go through each issue and mark it as invalid or invalid. So, you know, I believe that's been starting since last week, and it should be wrapping up relatively soon. So the number of issues that are present in this one, was very similar to the C gauge, around 200 or so. In practice, the 200 for the C gauge got whittled down to, five or so low to medium issues. So, I would kind of expect the same for the wrap to Steve migration, especially given, or perhaps even less, just given that we've done the Bean 3 curve to Bean ETH migration, and this uses the same underlying logic as that.
Hmm.
And, we've whitelisted many times before. So, ultimately not too much logic, but always good to kind of ensure that our code is audited and, is safe.
Very fair, and it seems like that's probably a really good example of a process that will continue to be repetitive in the future. And so the sharper that pencil gets over time, the easier the process becomes, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely, the C gauge was the first time we kind of done a code hawk audit with the team, and we're still learning. And I believe with the Rap Steve migration, it's shown that we've definitely improved on that process.
Nice. Any other questions or comments on Rep, Steve? All right, jumping down
Uh,
to,
I
oh,
do have
go ahead.
one thing.
Yeah.
The parameters for the Rap Steve well hasn't been finalized yet. With the C gauge, one of the parameters that the DAO can change is the optimal percentage of BDV it should have for Beanstalk. And depending on how aggressive the DAO wants to be, you know, I think it's a worthy discussion in the asynchronously in the general chat.
Is there a, and you'll have to forgive my ignorance, is there a place where that discussion is happening, Breen? Is that actively being discussed?
Not from what I've known, what I've seen.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed either. So
Whoever
I'm
they can start one.
yeah, either in the RFC channel or maybe in a separate one. Yeah, probably something worth spinning up. Okay, that's a good, yeah, that's a good takeaway. I'll do some follow up on that.
So, just to clarify, Breen, about what is that in? But
Sorry, can you kind of cutting off there?
Yeah, you're cutting in out a little bit. I missed who was talking, but whoever it was cutting in and out quite a bit.
Hey, can you hear me now? Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better, Soil.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I just switched microphones there. Anyway, I was just asking about the so the comment you made there, Breen, about the setting the optimal LP percentages. Is that in reference to between wstETH and the existing Beneath well?
Yes. So currently, Beanstalk has a two level distribution, right, with the seed gauge system. The first level is how much LP or how many seeds should be distributed to bean versus LP. And that's much more focused on the peg maintenance level. Beyond that, we Beanstalk also distributes the seed, between each LP. Now, this is less of a peg maintenance issue, but more like a DAO, optimization issue. Beanstalk itself doesn't have the ability to evaluate one BDV of one well versus the other. To them, or to Beanstalk, one non-being US dollar is the same. So it's up to the DAO to kind of determine what's the optimal percentage between each well, and not the distribution between the bean Steve well and the bean token itself.
Oh, look who showed up. Oh.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely something we'll have to follow up on. Okay. All right. So I was swapping back and forth between Discord and my PDF. Can everybody see the deck?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So to jump down to multi-flow, again, I know that that is code that's currently under audit. And Breen, again, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also going through the CodeHawks process, correct? As opposed to just like a Cypher audit?
Yeah, it's doing the same CodeHawk audit, competitive audit system. And initially the goal was to kind of perform this one huge wstETH migration plus the multi-flow pump into one CodeHawks audit. But given that Basin is a separate protocol from Beanstalk, it seemed probably better for the CodeHawk community to treat them as separate audits rather than one and the same.
Sure. That's a good point. Okay, any other questions or comments about multi-flow? Okay, hearing none. Gen convert. So, Pizza Man, is there anything? And I'll hand the floor off to you. Is there anything you want to specifically cover in terms of progress here?
I think this chart covers things pretty well, but I did kind of have an early code review with Breen, so he took a look at everything I'd written so far just to make sure I was going in the correct general direction. He just has a lot more experience with, Beanstalk and Solidity coding in general, so he'll be kind of mentoring me through this. But I completed a first round of feedback that Breen gave me, and seems like things are going reasonably well so far. So that's my update.
Good stuff. Well, appreciate it. Any other questions from the group or comments from the group? Okay. So H1 upgrades. I don't think I saw Deadman on, and so I guess what I will say is, first of all, obviously, if somebody else from the dev team wants to mention something about the upgrade package, I'll open up the floor. And if anybody has any questions about this, I'll take those questions and take them to Deadman, and we'll follow up on them and drop the answers to whatever the questions are in the Discord.
Yeah, I can speak on behalf of Deadman here. So,
Yeah.
Deadman's doing a great job with this miscellaneous, we're called the BIP miscellaneous upgrades. Recently there was a Immunify report that has to do with chopping unripe, and given it's a valid bug, but is not manipulatable to the executor's benefit, probably best to include it in this miscellaneous upgrade. So Deadman's been working hard on implementing a fix for that as well.
Nice. Well, good stuff. Appreciate that, and appreciate the extra color too. Something I'll mention to the group is that with all the CodeHawks competitive audits we've added in over the last couple meetings, we've added in time periods for the judging phases too, and that will be a common component for any of the competitive audits. There'll always be that judging phase in, so that's something that we can, I would say that as a DAO, something that we'll just need to understand is kind of part of that process and part of the timeline. So got it in, for this one here, and I think all the other major projects have it incorporated, and if they aren't, I'll make sure they're incorporated here for the next meeting.
Just also
Okay.
wanted to mention
yeah.
that this report was submitted by someone who participated in the CodeHawks competitive audit. So it's very cool to see these people who dip their feet into the competitive audit and then see the Immunify and then continue to audit the live Beanstalk right now. So it's really cool to kind of see this like flow of new participants, and I think it's great that this serves as a great testing bed to see the interested parties to continuously bring in more white hats and make sure Beanstalk's code base is rock solid.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like as those white hats build more and more familiarity with the code base in general, the level of feedback and findings they have, I would think, would continue to improve as well, right?
Exactly. Beanstalk is one of the most unique projects on Ethereum, not only because of what it's trying to do, but most projects that are being audited are one-off implementations, whereas Beanstalk is this live protocol that lives while it's being audited. So very interesting dynamic there.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay. So secure Beanstalk. Hey, love having Thunder with us. Thunder, I'll hand it over to you. Anything specific you want to talk about for secure Beanstalk?
Nothing too specific. Secure Beanstalk has kind of grown into a big and large concept of just trying to clean up the code base and reduce the overall risk vectors. The biggest one has been implementing invariants, which basically just checks certain security parameters on every single interaction with Beanstalk for a small additional gas cost. And those have primarily finished development. They're under review by Breen right now, and I'm writing tests this week on that. And then I assume this will be done sooner than other chunks like the generalized convert, but the audits will probably be grouped together at some point this summer. But the development is going well and pretty near completion. And these won't change any functionality. They definitely aren't going to make Bean pump or anything, but hopefully they improve security and reduce overall cost paid out to Immunify and potential future risk.
Love it. Appreciate the disclaimer. And actually, that's a good point you make there at the end too that I hadn't considered. Again, theoretically, yeah, that there's that potential opportunity for other things like Immunify payments to potentially be lower if these additional security features are in place. That's an interesting thought. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions or comments from the group about Secure Beanstalk? All right, and Tractor. So really no updates here. Knowing obviously the funder is working on Secure Beanstalk. So we'll just we'll let this one set for the time being. And really that's it for the specific slides. I'll open up the floor here for for a couple minutes to see if there's any specific questions or comments from the group about something that we haven't covered.
Hey, I have some stuff to share. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been working on the subgraph for the last few weeks, maybe a month or so. Haven't had a chance to do much on the Dune dashboard, but have a lot of really exciting upgrades coming to the subgraph that hopefully you'll start to see in the next couple weeks. So it's really like a kind of a bunch of things together, but I guess most notably for the changes coming with seed gauge in the next couple weeks, we have updated like all the APY calculations to account for how the stock is going to dynamically shift between the different assets. And other than that, been putting a lot of work in for getting a lot of analysis of some pre-replant values. So particularly the big ones that I'm excited to show are the pre-replant delta Bs. So you'll be able to see like the delta Bs and like the the TWA prices, like, for every hour, like across, all time basically. So that'll be pretty cool when that comes through. Targeting probably in the next couple weeks should have all those changes deployed and hopefully added onto the UI.
That's awesome. So Soil, I will ask you now because unfortunately I will forget if I don't say it right now. As those items get finished, let me know and we'll make sure that as they roll out, we'll do Twitter posts and we'll put stuff up in Discord so that people are aware of them. We'll make sure to make a big deal out of them as they roll out. So don't let me forget to capture those as you finish them.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Any other items from the group?
Okay, just curious, will those graph updates include the ability to display like an individual depositor's APY that they're getting for their deposits? So say I had, grown stock for like a year or two, would that be reflected in my APYs that I see in my view?
So currently, no. And I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. So, I mean, mainly is that doing those types of calculations on an individual farmer level, at least like for the subgraph to do, it is not the right way to do it, just because it has to calculate, as like basically what happens is every time the sunrise call comes in, it updates all the APYs, and it takes like some time to calculate. So it calculates like for every asset, the 30-day, the 7-day, and the 24-hour. So like doing like all of that, and then like for each whitelisted asset. So like all of that probably takes like 10 seconds or so, like with all the complexities added with Gauge. So so no, I mean it's not feasible to have it calculated for every user, but I mean that's not to say that we can't have another way for that to be shown, but at least from the subgraph, that's not going to be available at this point. But definitely something that is on my radar, and have some ideas for some other approaches that we can take.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks for the great explanation. While I've got you here, I'm curious if you've had a chance to or know how it might be possible to do some analysis on what percentage of stock is owned by unripe holders as opposed to ripe assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to look into that one to see whether we have all that information on the subgraph currently. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Cool, no problem. Thanks.
Good
Just wanted
stuff.
to
All right.
shout out
Yeah.
SoilKing's a huge trooper for updating the APY based on the C gauge system. The APY system already is relatively complex without the gauge system. And given that the gauge system, changes the distribution of seeds to bean on every season, it just makes it an order of magnitude more complicated. And, he's just been crushing it. So I just wanted to say that out here.
That's awesome.
Well, I couldn't do it without your help, Green. You certainly helped explain all the new events and all the just to bring up here too, seed gauge, it really is a very complex, and I mean it's very, very interesting, very well written, and I think it would be cool at some point, maybe if you're up for it, Breen, to have some kind of a longer form like call or discussion or something to really dive in like deep on how all the mechanics of it work, because I think that'll be helpful for people to understand, particularly as it's going live in the next couple weeks, and we'll hopefully be able to we'll be monitoring the changes that it's making in real time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because, C gauge is designed to be as simple as possible, but even with that, it's still incredibly complex. And, with the current implementation, uh, we only have the bean ETH pool, so only that first level of stock distribution of between bean and LP is initialized. Once we have that wstETH implementation, that's when we'll really see new data. Both on the bean to LP distribution as well as the distribution between LPs. So I think that would be really cool. And to your point, I think there would be some value in kind of discussing that as you know, I guess, yeah, as the wstETH is implemented, we probably have a class discussing how it works. We'll say even though that it's still on a, I would say a V1. Ideally, in a C gauge system, we would track the change in demand of the gauge system itself. So, for instance, one of the parameters we evaluate on Beanstalk currently is both the pod rate which is the debt level, as well as the change in soil demand. And currently, the sea gauge system only evaluates the liquidity level itself, but not the change in liquidity level. That makes a change in demand of liquidity, right? And what I would see that would be in practice is the demand for converts, for instance, right? For instance, if we have a system where people are massively converting, there's just so much demand for convert every time beans are off by some delta B, perhaps the system can alleviate how much soil it issues instead of relying on convert demand, uh, for instance, right? So that would be a even more complex system, and you know it will be interesting to see. And the other thing is that this sea gauge system, unfortunately, uh, doesn't have the generalized convert system in place to kind of really see its full efficacy, right? Once the the well is implemented, it's really hard for people to switch between the bean wrap Steve well to the bean Eve well. Let's say Beanstalk allocates more stock to bean Eve, uh, and suggesting that people should migrate from the bean Steve to bean Eve. Currently, without generalized convert, it's really hard. There's a lot of friction in doing so. So, this is why I'm very excited on the development front with generalized convert. So, once those two pieces are together, we can really see the model flourish, or really see how it works and get good data without any friction.
That's really helpful, Breen. I mean, there are, and I'm speaking strictly from personal experience and my, let's say, Beanstalk learning journey. There's so many times when we'll talk about a project or an initiative or a concept or a feature or something, and I think there are times when the community, and in this case, I'm gonna speak for myself, say the community, maybe has a hard time getting their hands around what that feature or project is until all of a sudden there is like a practical implementation. And like when you talk about that idea of generalized convert and you say, okay, we're trying to eliminate the friction of converting between the wraps ETH well and the ETH well, for me, like even in that moment, I'm like, oh, okay, that 2-sentence explanation unlocks that concept for me. And I'm going to claim that I'm probably one of the less technically savvy folks in the community, but like just being able to talk through some of those practical situations and implementations, I think is really good. And again, before I lose the thought, I think we definitely should have some type of class or some type of opportunity to kind of dive in on seed gauge and on some of these components that are kind of coming together right now. And so I was looking at May 7th for the next DAO meeting. We'll have to talk about whether or not we want to do something like around the same time period, maybe either right before or right after, or if we want to do something, a day before or day after, but we'll coordinate, and we'll, if that's okay with you, we'll try to figure out a way to give an opportunity to kind of talk through some of these new items in some real specific detail. Especially, man, it'd be great if we had even some like UI screenshots, and I know that there's a bunch of UI testing that's going on right now. I think that would be fantastic. So if y'all are up for it, let's plan to do it.
Yeah, for sure. If the community, there's a lot of demand for it, we should definitely set something up.
Yeah, I that strikes me as something that the community would get excited about. So yeah, let's we will figure something out. I'll coordinate with you and some other folks to see if we can't make that happen. Awesome. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? I'm looking at the Barnyard chat. I don't see anything there. I did see Harry's GM Harry. Love your PFP. Admittedly, my favorite part is the belly. That I like that quite a bit. I think that's pretty great. And anything else before we let everybody go? All right, hearing nothing. Appreciate everybody's time. Definitely appreciate all the color from the devs. Yeah, I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you. We'll tentatively plan. I'm going to say I'm 99% sure that we'll get the next DAO meeting on the calendar for Tuesday, May 7th. I'll probably do it at the typical time, which for me is like I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, appreciate everybody joining us, and we will talk to you all later. Thanks.
Thank you, Rex, for hosting.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yes, thank you.